Hey, how y'all doing? Y'all miss me? I hope so. I saw that a few people have been watching the show here lately. Not very many, but I think I had like 8 views today or so. You know, that's a pretty good day for me. As much as I'd like to do better, that's a pretty good day for me. We got a lot going on. Pretty much all in politics. I dropped my phone. But I've been away for a day or two, and then I've been resting up. I have been tired. I took a little trip down to Owsley County, Kentucky. Something other that me and my dad's done all my life. We've coon hunted together. It's pretty fun if you haven't ever been. Ain't nothing like it. You have to go overnight, and you don't ever hardly see anybody, which is a good thing when you think about it, but I mean, you do have those emergency situations sometimes, and that's kind of scary being out, in the middle of nowhere and not knowing, what's going to happen or nothing like that. But anyway, we had a pretty good time. I got caught up on some rest. The deer ticks and the turkey mites about ate him up, I think. I didn't find none on me. I don't know why, but I didn't. Thank God. But he had a lot on him, he said. I've been trying to get us a new number set up this evening. I've been having a little bit of trouble with it. I don't want to give out my home number on this show, but I always try to keep like some kind of internet number that I can use as a show number, and then if we have anybody that wants to call the show, they can call that number. And then if it's, some kind of crazy person or something like that, they just got a number in which I can change pretty easily. So that's the reason I use that route at this point in time. Let's watch a video here. Well, I'm not doing no live stream video or whatever today, video feed, but you can hear the audio of this, I guess.
Great pleasure to welcome President Santos to the White House. Colombia is one of our closest allies in the hemisphere, and today we reaffirm partnership between our two great nations. President Santos and I had a very productive meeting, and we will continue to work very closely together to bring peace, safety, and prosperity to the hemisphere. Perhaps no area is really more important in terms of cooperation than our joint effort to end the terrible drug crimes that plague both of our countries. Recently, we have seen an alarmed, and I mean really a very highly alarmed and alarming trend. Last year, Colombia cocoa cultivation and cocaine production reached a record high, which hopefully will be remedied very quickly by the president. We must confront this dangerous threat to our societies together. Today, I affirm the United States' willingness to assist Colombia's strategy to target and eliminate drug trafficking networks, illicit financings, cocoa cultivation, and cocaine production, of which there is far too much. The drug epidemic is poisoning too many American lives, and we're going to stop it many different ways. One of them will be the wall. My administration is committed to keeping drugs and gangs from pouring into our country. Already, border crossings are down more than 73%. Secretary Kelly is with us. He's done a fantastic job. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. And in short, we have a tremendous group of people working with us in terms of ICE, the ICE Patrol and the Border Patrol agents. They've done a fantastic job, and I'd like you to give them my highest compliments, Mr. Secretary. And MS-13, likewise, a horrible, horrible, large group of gangs that have been led into our country over a fairly short period of time are being decimated by the Border Patrol, by ICE, and by our incredible local police forces. And they are getting out of our country, or in some cases going directly into prisons throughout our country. But they've literally taken over towns and cities of the United States. They will be gone very quickly. I look forward to working with President Santos as we target drug trafficking. Both the United States and Colombia have strong law enforcement and security relationship. We've had it, and especially over the last fairly short period of time. Together, we will continue to fight the criminal networks responsible for the deadly drug trade that our people have a really strong commitment to getting rid of, because they want a much brighter future. President Santos and I also discussed the deteriorating situation in Venezuela, and it is really in a very bad state, as you see, and as we all see through the media. The stable and peaceful Venezuela is in the best interest of the entire hemisphere, and America stands with all of the people in our great hemisphere yearning to be free. We will be working with Colombia and other countries on the Venezuelan problem. It is a very, very horrible problem, and from a humanitarian standpoint, it is like nothing we've seen in quite a long time. The United States and Colombia are also strong economic partners, and we will continue to pursue trade policies that benefit both of our peoples. The nation's common goals of protecting our citizens, expanding opportunity, and confronting the drug crisis will improve the lives of our people and many throughout the region. So many people are being so horribly affected by what's going on in terms of violence and in terms of drugs. And we're going to take care of the situation, and we both agreed to take care of it strongly and quickly. President Santos, it was an honor to meet with you and your entire group of representatives, very talented people indeed, who have been working with us and my representatives. And I look forward to many more productive meetings, such as the one we just had. I'd like to thank you very much for being at the White House, being our guest, and I'd like to congratulate you on winning the Nobel Peace Prize. It's a very great achievement. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I want to thank you personally for this warm and productive visit and for the strong support Colombia has received from your administration, from Congress, and from the American people. Como usted sabe, nuestras naciones han...
As you know, our nations have had for a long time a strategic alliance, an extraordinary friendship. We believe in the same principles of democracy, freedom, and the rule of law. And we work so that the Western Hemisphere can be more prosperous and safe. The United States and Colombia, both democracies of greater and longer standing in the hemisphere, we have supported each other. Our soldiers fight shoulder to shoulder in the Korean War. At the request of the United States, we sent anti-drug experts to Afghanistan, and today Colombia and the United States are working together to support Central America in their fight against drug cartels and the violence of organized crime. I can say, Mr. President, based on our conversation this afternoon, that I have no doubt that the United States and Colombia continue to be today, more than ever, a support one for the other. Our alliance was strengthened. Our most valuable cooperation has been Plan Colombia, which I can sum up in very simple terms. When Colombians were fighting to survive, for our democracy to survive actually, faced with the threat of terrorism and drug trafficking, the United States stretched out a hand and helped us win that battle. We will never forget it. Today we live in a different country. Today Colombia is a more peaceful society, a more modern and a fairer society. In November last year, we ended the longest and last armed conflict existing in our hemisphere. The guerrilla is putting down weapons at this precise time to the United Nations. Insecurity has gone down significantly. Today we have the lowest levels of violence of the last 40 years. At the same time, we have had significant progress for our citizens on issues such as education, housing, health, and social services. Millions of Colombians have been lifted out of poverty. Today, we continue next to you as partners in Peace Colombia to consolidate peace in the most affected areas. With the robust support of your government, we are removing thousands of anti-personnel mines that murdered and mutilated children, women, and soldiers. We are healing the wounds of our victims, and we are embarking on a big social development program. Such as we said today, we are working with your administration to take advantage of the unique opportunity peace offers so as to reduce permanently the production of coca leaf in Colombia and fight more effectively the other links in drug trafficking, including consumption. We must continue and deepen the fight against organized crime, transnational crime, responsible not just for drug trafficking, but also for human trafficking and illegal mining.
I just wanted to show how President Trump was helping fight the drug war even outside of our country. That's always a big plus. I've seen a lot of drugs in my life. I've seen a lot of lives destroyed, and it's something that
Thank you very much.
I wouldn't want to see happen to anybody. I really wouldn't. That's something that will destroy the best of us. The brightest and smartest of us. But I wanted to listen at this little press conference that the president held on Friday as well.
President Yohannes, thank you for being here. It's an honor to welcome such a good friend of America to the White House. As you know, the people of Romania and America share much in common. A love of freedom, proud cultures, rich traditions, and a vast and storied landscape to call home. The relationship between our two countries stretches back well over a century, but today we especially reaffirm and celebrate our strategic partnership that began more than 20 years ago. That partnership covers many dimensions, including economic, military, and cultural ties, and today we are making those ties even stronger. Mr. President, your visit comes at an important moment, not just in this partnership, but among all of the responsible nations of the world. I have just returned from a historic trip to Europe and the Middle East, where I worked to strengthen our alliances, forge new friendships, and unite all civilized peoples in the fight against terrorism. No civilized nation can tolerate this violence or allow this wicked ideology to spread on its shores. I addressed a summit of more than 50 Arab and Muslim leaders, a unique meeting in the history of nations, where key players in the region agreed to stop supporting terrorism, whether it be financial, military, or even moral support. The nation of Qatar, unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism at a very high level. And in the wake of that conference, nations came together and spoke to me about confronting Qatar over its behavior. So we had a decision to make. Do we take the easy road, or do we finally take a hard but necessary action? We have to stop the funding of terrorism. I decided, along with Secretary of State Rex Tillerson.
Folks, I'm going to show you how the mainstream media is supporting terrorism, how they're undermining Donald Trump, our president, who's trying to stop the terrorists, who's trying to stop the drugs. Just wait, I'll show you.
Our great generals and military people. The time had come to call on Qatar to end its funding. They have to end that funding. And its extremist ideology in terms of funding. I want to call on all of the nations to stop immediately supporting terrorism. Stop teaching people to kill other people. stop filling their minds with hate and intolerance. I won't name other countries, but we are not done solving the problem, but we will solve that problem. Have no choice. This is my great priority because it is my first duty as president to keep our people safe. Defeating ISIS and other terror organizations is something I have emphasized all during my campaign and right up until the present. To do that, stop funding, stop teaching hate, and stop the killing. For Qatar, we want you back among the unity of responsible nations. We ask Qatar and other nations in the region to do more and do it faster. I want to thank Saudi Arabia and my friend King Salman and all of the countries who participated in that very historic summit. It was truly historic. There has never been anything like it before, and perhaps there never will be again. Hopefully, it will be the beginning of the end of funding terrorism. It will therefore be the beginning of the end to terrorism. No more funding. I also want to thank the Romanian people for everything they contribute to our common defense and to the fight against the evil menace of terrorism. They have their own difficulties with it, and they've come a long way, and they're doing a lot. Romania has been a valuable member of the coalition to defeat ISIS, and it's the fourth largest contributor of troops in Afghanistan. There, 23 of your citizens have paid the ultimate price, and America honors their sacrifice. I want to recognize President Iohannis for his leadership in committing Romania this year to increase its defense spending from 1.4% of GDP to over 2%. We hope our other NATO allies will follow Romania's lead on meeting their financial obligations and paying their fair share for the cost of defense. But I will say this, that because of our actions, money is starting to pour in to NATO. The money is starting to pour in. Other countries are starting to realize that it's time to pay up, and they're doing that. Very proud of that fact. As you know, I have been an advocate for strengthening our NATO alliance through greater responsibility and burden sharing among member nations. And that is what is happening. Because together we can confront the common security challenges facing the world. Mr. President, I want to applaud your courage and your courageous efforts in Romania to fight corruption and defend the rule of law. This work is necessary to create an environment where trade and commerce can flourish and where citizens can prosper. I look forward to working with you to deepen the ties of both commerce and culture between our two countries. Romanians have made contributions to the United States and to the world. Very notable among them was Nobel Prize laureate Elie Wiesel, who was born in Romania and sadly passed away almost 1 year ago. And I understand that earlier this week, the American Jewish Committee presented President Iohannis with its very prestigious Light Unto the nation's award for his work to further Holocaust remembrance and education in Romania. I join the AJC in saluting your leadership in this vital cause. The people of Romania have endured many, many hardships, but they have made a truly remarkable historical journey. The future of Romania and Romania's relationship with the United States is very, very bright. President Iohannis, I thank you for your leadership, and I thank you again for being here today. I look forward to strengthening our alliance with your country and our bonds with your people. The relationship has been good, but now it's stronger than ever. Thank you very much.
President Trump, thank you so much for the words you found for Romania, for the Romanian people, and for me. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here today with you, and thank you so much for arranging this nice weather in this place. Mr. President, I'm very glad that we had such a good meeting, and this is due to your strong leadership, and this is also due to our strong partnership. Obviously, the fact that we celebrate 20 years of strategic partnership this year is important for both our nations, and it is important to know, and this is what I want to underline, that this partnership with the United States of America shaped Romania as it is today. Romania, a solid democracy with a solid, sustainable economic growth. Romania, which stands together with the US troops in Afghanistan. We stand together in Iraq. Mr. President, this partnership contributed greatly to what Romania is today. And this partnership was and is very important. And I think this partnership not only has to continue, this partnership has to become stronger. This partnership has to define our bilateral relation, and this partnership has to contribute to solve so many problems. President Trump, you mentioned terrorism. I'm very glad that due to your strong leadership, NATO decided to go against terrorism. Your involvement made so many nations conscious of the fact that we have to share the burden inside NATO. And this is why Romania also decided, and if I'm right, I think this is the first country during your mandate to step up to 2% of GDP for defense spending. A significant part of this defense spending is going into strategic acquisitions, and I hope, President Trump, that we find good ways together to make good use of this money. Romania is very conscious of the fact that we stand on the eastern flank, and we heavily rely on your partnership, President Trump, because we cannot stand there without the U.S. We cannot stand there alone. On the other hand, our partnership has a huge opportunity to step up not only in security matters, but also in commercial and economic matters. And this is very important. Romania is a member of the European Union, and I think it's the best interest of you, Mr. President, to have a strong European Union as a partner. This is vital for all of us. our relationship, the transatlantic link is vital. Transatlantic link is not about diplomacy, it's about policy. It's at the basis of our Western civilization, and together we will make it stronger, together we will make it better. NATO and the European Union do not have to compete against each other. They have to work together. They have to work in such a manner as to produce synergetic effects, make NATO stronger, make Europe stronger, make the United States of America stronger.
That's right.
And this is what we decided, President Trump and I, to make our partnership stronger, better, more enduring. And this will lead very soon to an enhanced economic exchange, to better commerce. And this is what we all decide and what we wish, because we are responsible, President Trump and I, not only for the security, we are responsible for the well-being of our citizens, and this is what we are decided to do. Thank you so much, President Trump.
Thank you. Dave Boyer, Washington Times, please.
Listen to this press conference.
Dave. Come on, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. President. Apologies.
That's all right, Dave.
Mr. President, this morning on Twitter, you were referring to the testimony of James Comey vindicating you. But I wondered if you could tell us in person, sir, why you feel that his testimony vindicated you when it's really boils down to his word against your word. And if you could also tell us, sir, do tapes exist of your conversations?
Do
with him?
tapes exist?
Well, I'll tell you about that maybe sometime in the very near future. But in the meantime, no collusion, no obstruction. He's a leaker, but we want to get back to running our great country. Jobs, trade deficits, we want them to disappear fast. North Korea, big problem. Middle East, a big problem. So that's what I am focused on. That's what I have been focused on. But yesterday showed no collusion, no obstruction. We are doing really well. That was an excuse by the Democrats who lost an election that some people think they shouldn't have lost.
There you go.
Because it's almost impossible for the Democrats to lose the Electoral
Impossible.
College, as you know. You have to run up the whole East Coast, and you have to win everything as a Republican, and that's
We
just
done
what we
it.
did. So it was a just an excuse, but we were very, very happy. And frankly, James Comey confirmed a lot of what I said, and some of the things that he said just weren't true. Thank you very much. Do you have a question?
Thank you. And Mr. President, if you could tell us, a couple weeks ago, President Trump was in Brussels at the NATO meeting, and not only was he encouraging NATO members to pay up the 2% required of GDP for national defense, but he also was saying that countries, including yours, who had not paid 2% in the past, should make up for that difference. Do you think that's fair?
I was in Brussels, and I met President Trump, and I listened to his speech, and I liked it. Because, you see, NATO is based on values, but it is ultimately a military alliance. And you know, military spendings are complicated, and you need a lot of money. Because NATO is the strongest alliance the earth ever saw, and we want to keep it that way. So we have to spend money for defense purposes. And spending money means if you're in alliance, everybody has to spend money. This is called burden sharing. And I fully agree, Mr. President, to that. So of course, some people liked this better and some didn't like it so much, but it's a simple fact that we have to do this, not as a purpose in itself. We have to do this to stay strong, to be strong, and to defend our nations.
Now, let me ask you a question. What in the hell difference does it make to that little SOB from the Daily whatever? Oh my God, man. 2%. And here he is just a stirring in a big bucket of feces, man. Trying to let out a can of worms. Oh my God. And you heard what the president of Romania said, didn't you?
100% correct. And, you know, one of the things I was referring to during that speech was the fact that, yes, they haven't paid what they should be paying now, but for many years they haven't been paying. So I said, do we ever go back and say, how about paying the money from many, many years past?
You couldn't make them
Now, I
do
know
that,
no
I would
president has
think.
ever asked that question, but I do. We're going to make NATO very strong. You need the money to make it strong. You can't just do what we've been doing in the past. So I did say, yes, you haven't paid this year, but what about the past years, the many past years where you haven't paid? Perhaps you should pay some or all of that money back. You have a question?
Thank you. I have a question for President Trump. On the matter of security, sir, many of the countries on the eastern flank of NATO, including Romania, see Russia as a threat to the security and the peace in the region. Do you share this vision, and do you think that United States should act under Article 5 if any of these countries will be under military aggression? Thank you very much.
Well, I'm committing the United States and have committed, but I'm committing the United States to Article 5. And certainly we are there to protect. And that's one of the reasons that I want people to make sure we have a very, very strong force by paying the kind of money necessary to have that force. But yes, absolutely, I'd be committed to Article 5.
Thank you. Mr. President, were there any discussion about the visa waiver program for Romania? Is there a time frame for including our country in this program? Thank you.
Yes.
We didn't discuss it, but there would be it would be something we will discuss, Mr. President.
I mentioned this issue, and I also mentioned it during other meetings I had, because this is important for us, it's important for Romanians who want to come to the United States. And you see, more and more people come, President Trump, from Romania to the United States. Some come as tourists, some come for business, and those who come for business should be encouraged. So the matter of visa waiver would be probably important to discuss, and we all hope that we will advance on this.
Oh, look at those hands up there, President. Do you have this in Romania too? I don't know.
Yeah, I got the microphone.
Oh, boy.
If you allow me,
If I could only sell that. If I could only sell it. Who would like to ask? Should I take one of the killer networks that treat me so badly as fake news? Should I do that? Huh? Go ahead, John. Be fair, John.
Oh, absolutely.
Remember how nice you used to be before I ran? Such a nice man.
Always fair. Mr. President, I want to get back to James Comey's testimony. You suggested he didn't tell the truth in everything he said. He did say under oath that you told him to let the Flynn, you said you hoped the Flynn investigation, he could
I didn't say that.
So he lied about that.
Well, I didn't say that. I mean, I will tell you, I didn't say that.
And did he ask you to pledge his
And there'd be
loyalty?
nothing wrong if I did say it, according to everybody that I've read today, but I did not say that.
And did he ask for a pledge of loyalty from you? That's another thing he said.
No, he did not.
So he said those things under oath. Would you be willing to speak under oath to give your version of those events?
100%. I didn't say under oath. I hardly know the man. I'm not going to say, I want you to pledge allegiance. Who would do that? Who would ask a man to pledge allegiance under oath? I mean, think of it. I hardly know the man. It doesn't make sense. No, I didn't say that, and I didn't say the other.
So if Robert Mueller wanted to speak with you about that,
I would be glad to tell him exactly what I just told you, Jim.
And you seem to be hinting that there are recordings of those conversations.
I'm not hinting anything. I'll tell you about it over a very short period of time. Okay. You have a question here?
When will you tell us about the
Over a
recordings?
fairly short period.
When you gonna tell us? Tell us now, Mr. President.
Oh, you're going to be very disappointed when you hear the answer. Don't worry. John, do you have a question for the president?
Yes. Thank you. And President Iohannis, you are no stranger to Russian aggression. Vladimir Putin recently suggested that Romania could be in Russia's crosshairs. How concerned should the world be about Russian aggression in your region? And how concerned should we be here in the United States about what Russia tried to do in our election?
Yeah.
Everybody's concerned. But you see, being concerned should lead you to being prepared.
Sorry,
So
fucking.
in my opinion, we have to be very clear, very simple, and very straightforward if we talk about Russia and with Russia. In my opinion, we need dialogue. But, on the other hand, we need what we all together decided in NATO, a strong deterrence. So this combination, strong deterrence and dialogue, should lead towards a solution which is feasible for every part. Domnul Pantazi.
Hello, Mr. President Trump. You mentioned earlier the anti-corruption fight in Romania. It is a matter of high importance in our country. But we see now that the anti-corruption fight and the efforts to consolidate the rule of law are sometimes undermined by some politicians, part of what we can call the Bucharest swamp. Is your administration going to support the anti-corruption fight in Romania, and how can you do it? Thank you.
Well, we support very strongly Romania, and therefore, obviously, we do support that fight on anti-corruption. We will always support that. And we support your president. We think he's done an outstanding job. Very popular, very solid, working very hard. We know everything that's going on. And, and he's going to win that fight. He's going to win that battle, but he has our support.
Romania as a problem for the U.S.-Romania partnership and for the American investor as a threat, because we still have corruption in Romania despite this anti-corruption fight.
Well, you do, but I can tell you that there are many American investors right now going to Romania and investing. In fact, I was given a chart just before our meeting, and we have people going over to Romania and investing, and they weren't doing that a number of years ago. So that shows very, very big progress, and there really are a lot of congratulations in store. But a lot of people are investing from our country to yours, and people love from Romania the United States, and they come here a lot, and we're very proud of them. Thank you all very much.
Did you hear the questions that came from the United States press? Like, really, man, I would be ashamed to call myself a member of the media. I would. They are about the lowest, low-life scumbags that ever existed, man. And it doesn't matter which particular group that you talk about, as long as you're talking about the mainstream media. Today's alternative media, whatever you want to call it, I mean, that's the only way to go. Daily Beast, I wouldn't give you you couldn't pay me to read the Daily Beast. Oh my God. I'm not very big on the Daily Caller. New York Times, oh God, that would gag a maggot. Yeah. Comey, he destroyed the New York Times. Well, no, the New York Times destroyed itself. Check this article right here out that I ran across just right then. Dennis Rodman, he's going to North Korea. This article is from CNN Politics, updated 10:22 p.m. Monday, June 12th, 2017.
It's a pretty stunning moment. Rodman is one of very few Americans to have met Kim Jong-un. He's called him a friend for life. Rodman also knows Donald Trump. Does this have anything to do with President Trump?
We don't know yet, Aaron, but this is really surreal. I was first tipped off about this last week and couldn't believe that Dennis Rodman is returning back to North Korea after that infamous trip in 2014 that was captured in a film described as a train wreck where he was drunk, out of control. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un canceled a meeting that was planned between the two of them near the end of the trip because of Rodman's out-of-control behavior, and yet here we have him again returning to the North Korean capital in the coming hours.
Video loading. Give it just a second, please. I'm sorry.
We know that Rodman is the only American who has spent considerable amount of time with Kim Jong-un, who is a basketball fan. We also know that Rodman has appeared twice on Celebrity Apprentice, President Trump's former reality show, so they know each other well. And Rodman did say back in March, Aaron, that he would be willing to come here to North Korea to negotiate on behalf of President.
It's loading again. I'm sorry. I watched this video earlier. It played good right then.
Trump, if he was asked to do so.
I mean, it's pretty stunning, right? And these things don't just happen by chance. It's very fair to say. He knows the president. He's friendly with the president. And obviously friendly with Kim Jong-un. Is the State Department giving any comment about this, Will?
When we checked with the State Department, they said they are aware that Rodman is coming.
It's got about 48 seconds left. It would play. I'm going to give it just another second.
But they stress this is not an official visit. But of course it's not an official visit. He's not a diplomat. However, it would be difficult to imagine if there wasn't some kind of communication, especially given the fact that this is a very tense time. North Korea has attempted to launch 16 missiles just this year, on track to be its busiest year ever in terms of launching missiles. And
yeah.
There are currently 4 Americans being detained here. 2 professors at the Pyongyang University of Science and Technology, a University of Virginia student, Otto Warmbier, and also a naturalized U.S. citizen named Kim Dong-chol. And so will he be negotiating on behalf of these 4 detained Americans? We don't know, but we hope to find out when we ask him at the airport later today.
Yep. It would take somebody like Dennis Rodman, first of all, to like anything about some communist dictator. That's somebody that's over there trying to advance his arsenal so he can attack us. Why? What's his beef with us anyway? I mean, the Clintons is the ones that gave them all their nuclear capabilities, their nuclear reactors, and all this. And no sooner than he gets a little nuclear capability, what does he do? He threatens the
I've been to North
U.S.
Korea
Threatens the damn U.S.
11 times over the last few years, and every time you come here, you hear the tensions between the U.S.
Yeah, that's CNN too. But yeah, I don't want to go no further into that. If it hadn't start playing accidentally, I wouldn't have even started watching it. Here's a video which I haven't watched. It's got 116,894 views. Now, imagine that. If I make a video and it gets 30 views, I'm jumping right up and down. But somebody from the left can make a video about overthrowing our president and our country and call themselves the Resistance and get over 100,000 views just what time they sit and yawn and play with their dick.
I'm Keith Olbermann, and this is The Resistance.
God, he
an
makes me
afterthought
sick.
on the testimony Thursday of the former FBI Director James Comey.
Yeah.
Not what he said that appropriately grabbed all the headlines,
Yeah.
but what he put only in his written testimony that never directly came up aloud at the hearing.
Yeah.
In short, what was that again about Russian hookers?
Yeah.
On the morning of March 30th,
What
the
was
president
that?
called me at the FBI, Comey wrote. He described the Russian investigation as a cloud that was impairing his ability to act on behalf of the country. He said he had nothing to do with Russia, had not been involved with hookers in Russia, and had always assumed he was being recorded when in Russia. Wait, what? I know this was covered when Comey's opening statement was released in advance, and to some degree during and after his testimony, but isn't there something even more amiss here than has yet to be publicly recognized? You call up a guy whom you're desperately trying to convince to publicly clear you, whom you will later fire, whom you will later threaten with a vague claim that you may have taped your conversations with him, and who will thus be required to talk about what you said to him in public venues and probably under oath, and you say something like, I have not been involved with hookers in Russia, and I always assume I was being recorded when in Russia? Seriously? Even in the cascading madness of the 7 months since the election, is this not just the craziest thing ever attributed to any president of the United States, but the craziest choice of topics ever raised by any president of the United States? Is it not evidence that within Trump's desperate obsession to get somebody to clear him personally about Russia, and boy, oh boy, do you and I understand Trump's desperate need to get somebody to clear him personally about Russia. Inside that, does it not seem there is an obsession within an obsession? I mean, what? The whole election thing isn't true, but Mr. FBI Director, make sure you clear me about the Russian hooker thing.
Them motherfuckers is the ones obsessed, don't they? I'm sorry. They really are, though. They're the ones that's obsessed. Talking about collusion with Russia, collusion, blah, 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 blah. They're the ones that's obsessed. There's been no findings to this, but yet that's all that they can say. Running that mouth and spreading propaganda. That's all they're good for. Just listen.
This was not even the first time he brought it up to Comey. January 27th, during the dinner, the president returned to the salacious material I had briefed him about on January 6th. And as he had done previously, expressed his disgust for the allegations and strongly denied them. He said he was considering ordering me to investigate the alleged incident to prove it didn't happen. I replied that he should give that careful thought because it might create a narrative that we were investigating him personally, which we weren't, and because it was very difficult to prove a negative. To be fair, as Comey said in his statement, it was he who brought this up first. He brought the Steele dossier, including the Russian hypothetical hookers in all their glory, to Trump's attention when they first met in New York on January 6th. But 3 weeks later, Trump was going to order Comey to disprove it somehow? To have the FBI conclude something didn't happen, and it didn't happen in Russia? And that is still one of Trump's first concerns when he phones Comey 83 days later? He said he had nothing to do with Russia, had not been involved with hookers in Russia, and had always assumed he was being recorded when in Russia. And in a speech in Australia overnight between Comey's statement and Comey's testimony, the former Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, said he had telephoned Trump on January 11th to encourage him to stop comparing the American intelligence community to the Nazis. And quoting Clapper in the speech, "Ever transactional, he simply asked me to refute the infamous dossier, which I couldn't and wouldn't do." I am not for a moment suggesting this detail from this rancid presidency is as important as all the times Comey's words at the hearing supported accusations of obstruction of justice against Trump, nor Comey's joy at the prospect that there might be tapes of his meetings with Trump, nor his implication that Trump is under investigation now by the special counsel, nor certainly the weight that Comey's testimony added to the evidence necessitating Trump's immediate impeachment. Not even Trump's attorney misspelling president in his response to the hearing and thus calling him Predesent Trump. But it's not just that there's something wrong here, there's something wronger here. When Comey's opening statement was first released, Trump attorney Mark Kasowitz issued a 43-word victory lap, including, "The president feels completely vindicated." And before the paint was dry on that statement from that attorney, another statement came from another Trump attorney. Comey's statement, released today, needs to be carefully scrutinized, Michael Cohen asserted, as his testimony claims the president was concerned about the dossier. It must be noted that the dossier has been debunked even by the author himself, Christopher Steele. Well, except A, Christopher Steele did not debunk his dossier. He wrote as he submitted it that a lot of it was unverified, that it was raw intelligence that needed further investigation. And B, what the hell? The dossier again? That's what you want to underline after a statement from the fired FBI director about how he was to testify under oath to facts that could conceivably end a presidency? The dossier? You just put the dossier and the Russian hypothetical hookers back under the public nose again? Why? Because Comey only referenced them twice? Somehow that wasn't enough for you? Why? Because you wanted to make sure every news organization in the world has to bring up the Steele dossier and the hookers? Even the news organizations who never mentioned them in the first place? I mean, what's hidden within the Steele dossier that could conceivably be more damaging to Trump than, impeachment or evidence of treason or both? What could it contain that on January 27th and March 30th and June 7th, the president and then one of his attorneys are seemingly more concerned with it than anything else? What could possibly be in the Steele dossier? Well, Russian hypothetical hookers. Move over, Richard Nixon. Before all this ends, "I am not a crook" may be replaced in presidential lore with "I am not a John." Resist. Peace.
God. That makes me sick, I swear. They're the ones that are obsessed with hookers and Russia and... See, folks, their lies, that's how they combat the truth, is with more lies than you can debunk. So many lies that it confuses you. It's lies on top of lies on top of MFing lies. It really is.
A sharp disagreement between James Comey and President Trump's lawyer, Mark Kasowitz, over whether the president wanted the FBI to shut down its investigation of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. And it's time now for our Sunday group. GOP strategist Karl Rove, Charles Lane of the Washington Post, former Democratic Congresswoman Donna Edwards, and former Speaker Newt Gingrich, author of the upcoming book, Understanding Trump, out this Tuesday. That must be a long book.
It's interesting.
I'm sure it is. Speaker Gingrich, I want to speak to you about something else, though. I want to start with your tweet that I discussed earlier with Republican Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel. Here it is up on the screen again. Republicans need to focus on closing down independent counsel because it clearly isn't independent. What's your reasoning, and wouldn't that really look like an obstruction of justice?
Well, first of all, look at what Comey said. Comey said, I deliberately leaked through an intermediary to create this counsel, who happens to be one of his closest friends. Then look at who Mueller's starting to hire. I mean, these are people that, frankly, look to me like they're setting up to go after Trump. They're including people, by the way, who have been reprimanded for hiding from the defense information in 2 major cases. I think this is going to be a witch hunt. I think that Comey himself, by his own testimony, tainted this particular process. You have a director of the FBI deliberately leaking in order to create a special counsel who we're now supposed to believe is going to be this neutral figure. I think that's just nonsense.
Let me bring you in, Congresswoman Edwards, and let's go back, as the Speaker suggested, to James Comey's testimony about one of his leaks. Here he is.
I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel.
Comey says he set the special prosecutor process in motion. Taking the word that was used by the Speaker, does that taint it?
No, it doesn't taint it at all. And in fact, I think it's really shocking that the Speaker and others are challenging the credibility not just of James Comey, but also of the special counsel Mueller. I mean, nobody on Capitol Hill has been questioning the integrity and the independence of the special counsel, and I think it was appropriate. I mean, the James Comey heard the president say things that were untrue and there were mischaracterization of their meetings, and he put out in the public sphere not classified information that he had prepared, and it wasn't a leak, into the public sphere. And I think it's appropriate for the special counsel to look into that, to investigate that. That's why the special counsel is in place.
Carl?
Well, I thought it was interesting. You played the piece of tape of Comey saying, if this got out, that the president said to me in the Oval Office, I hope you can let this thing go, that it would have had a chilling effect on the FBI agents. Because Comey proceeded to talk about the incident widely within the FBI, widely enough in the FBI that...
Not the investigating officers, just within...
Well, but widely enough within the top staff of the FBI that it got printed in the New York Times on the 11th of May. So... before that, before the president's tweet that supposedly provoked
that was the loyalty pledge, but anyway.
Right.
But this question of Mueller and whether or not he should...
Well, look, I think it would be a huge mistake to try and shut down the special counsel. This would leave the Trump administration, the Trump presidency, under a cloud till the very last day and make it an ongoing issue. I do have confidence in Mueller. The question is Robert Mueller Patrick Fitzgerald or not? Is he going to look for an underlying act and focus on the underlying act?
Yeah, we should point out Patrick Fitzgerald was the special counsel in the case about Valerie Plame and the leak of that information.
And the day he took his responsibility, he knew exactly who had leaked her name, Richard Armitage, Undersecretary of State. He knew she was not a covered person, that there was no underlying effort. Chuck's paper, when they found out, when it was several years later revealed that it was Richard Armitage, said, well, why did we even go through all of this exercise? Because everybody knows Richard Armitage had no axe to grind. But he ground an axe for a long period of time, trying to find people that he could indict on the fact that they had said one thing that he could get them on, and he got Scooter Libby on the fact that he had not, that he said...
Let me just move on, because I don't want to talk about Scooter Libby. I will say, you were also a target, and you ended up spending a whole pile of money on private legal fees. Wait, let me just bring in Chuck, so we're all here. Go ahead.
Well, this gets really, really complicated.
Well, let's keep it simple. Should Robert Mueller be able to, should he stay on or should he be shut down?
Of course he should stay on. And honestly, if the Republicans are thinking about their own best political interests, that's what they'd want, for two reasons. He's widely regarded, notwithstanding what we just heard here, by Republicans and Democrats on the Hill as an honest broker in this affair. Secondly, it gives it a channel for all the discussion and all the investigation to go through one pipeline instead of 50 different committees and 50 different leaks. It's actually in the Republicans' own, the president's own interest to have it go through this process. But look, let's look at the big picture here. I'm not in any position to say whether a particular crime or impeachable offense occurred. But what I am, and I think we're all in a position to say after this testimony of the last week, the President of the United States did something terribly inappropriate. He misused his authority by engaging in that kind of meeting and that kind of conversation with Jim Comey under those circumstances. And backhandedly, Paul Ryan is admitting it by saying, in effect, this is what a person who doesn't understand government would do. And that, all by itself, ought to be a source of great concern.
Presidents often do stupid things, but this is not obstruction of justice. This is not illegal. He is the head of the executive branch.
I didn't say it was. I specifically said I don't know whether it is.
He's the head of the executive branch. He could have directed him to end the investigation.
He could have pardoned Mike Flynn, actually.
Mike Flynn, but he could have directed him to end the investigation, and it still would have been appropriate. He would have had a huge political price to pay, but he's the head of the executive branch of government. We once had an FBI director who thought he did not report and was independent of any authority. His name was J. Edgar Hoover.
And I would respect the president a lot more if he'd stood up and, in an accountable way, called a press conference and said, I'm pardoning Mike Flynn.
But what defines that is that the president of the United States asked everyone else to leave the room. And so this idea that he somehow
Folks, I knew that lady was a Democrat no sooner than I saw her face. And it wasn't because she was a black lady either. I don't know. I've just got a sixth sense about stuff like that. Seems like, especially anymore. This isn't a video I've heard either, but I do want to listen to it, so Newt Gingrich won't be so interrupted.
Joining us now, Newt Gingrich. He has a new book out tomorrow, Understanding Trump, and well, we need to understand that answer.
This is from the Laura Ingraham Show, 6/12/17. This is a 5-minute video of what Newt Gingrich had to say on her show.
Now volunteering to testify, Newt Gingrich joins us now. Newt, we got your old friend Raymond Arroyo with us too. He's with us.
That's great. Hey, Raymond.
How are you, Newt? So, Newt, what do you make of this comment by Trump on Friday that he was willing to testify, which I imagine came as a bit of a shock to his attorneys preparing for the special counsel?
I think two things. One, this is part of why I wrote Understanding Trump, which is, by the way, not called Predicting Trump, which I think is impossible. I think that his entire career, he has always counterpunched. Going all the way back to the page 6 days in New York. And so his automatic instinct, and it's so deep in him that it's not something he thinks about. He just does it. I think he also has never, his attorneys have not gotten across to him the difference between the kind of lawsuits Trump has had many of, which are civil and involve money, and being involved in a potential criminal case. Obviously, the standards are very different. And as we know from past special counsels, there's a standard rule in Washington that it's not the original problem that kills you. It's the process as they investigate. It's obstruction of justice. It's perjury, what have you. And I don't think, Trump is a guy who talks in big, sweeping...
And Comey, along with other things, that this could be a really fair investigation of Trump and his associates?
I think that is impossible. This will be a witch hunt. I've started to go back and peel back the onion. Comey, for example, appointed Fitzpatrick to investigate the Valerie Plame case after Comey knew that it was not a crime and knew that, in fact, Richard Armitage at the State Department had revealed her name and knew that she was fairly well known around Washington by a number of people. After he knew all that, he appointed Fitzpatrick. And Fitzpatrick, of course, told Armitage to shut up. And the country was put in this spectacle during the Bush re-election campaign. But you go back and look at that. Nobody in the city wants to look at history. you look at that and you say to yourself, Comey's a bad person. He kept from the country information he had, I think, for the purpose of trying to destroy Dick Cheney. And as you know, Scooter Libby ultimately was caught on
ruined his life, bankrupt
what
him.
he had said.
Yeah, bankrupt him.
Yeah, and they put a New York Times reporter. I've always been amazed at this. They put a New York Times reporter in jail for 85 days. Nobody seemed to complain because she said, she had been wrong about weapons of mass destruction. So all of her fellow reporters thought, oh well, what's 85 days in jail?
Newt, I got to ask you about
It's just crazy.
Yeah, no, it's an outrage. But Mueller, Mueller's not Comey, but they're pals. And when you get special counsel, they usually indict somebody.
Mueller's first 3 hires are all people who donated to the Democratic
Party. Yeah, I mean, they're serious. They're building up that team. Before we let you go, Newt, I got to ask you about Capitol Hill. I could talk to you for an hour. McConnell, Ryan, at this point, is it not the case that they need to pass legislation? Whatever they can get the votes for when it comes to health care and tax reform, they've got to put some points on the board.
That's right. It's that simple. And they need to pass a fair amount of legislation. The House has actually passed 200 and some bills, but the Senate, as you know, is a much different animal. But they just have got to get some things done before they go home for August.
And what would you do differently if you were up there?
I think you said it pretty well. I'd find what I can get the votes for, and I'd pass it. Mm-hmm. And I'd say, look, this is the best we can do this year. We'll come back next year and try to do better. But I'm going to get something done.
Yeah, Reagan did the tax cut, then he did tax reform.
Yeah. I don't worry about tax reform. I worry about tax cuts.
Right.
They need to focus on jobs. They need to focus on the economy. They should pass a big infrastructure bill. They should do the kind of things they can do and give the country a sense of momentum.
Got to do it. You got to do it. Otherwise, you're part of the problem. They're part of the. Otherwise, they become part of the resistance. Newt Gingrich, his book "Understanding Trump," out tomorrow. You can buy it now, though. Newt, thank you so much as always. We'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show. Byron York stops by. Don't go away.
Okay. Now, I got a couple more videos I want y'all to hear. As soon as I find them, that is. Give me just a second.
Apparently, when any member of the Trump administration has a complaint about anyone else, they take it to the one place where they know they're going to meet with a friendly audience, and that is Fox News. Early Monday morning, Ivanka Trump went on Fox and Friends to talk about the viciousness that she sees in Washington, D.C. Take a look.
You know, we moved down to Washington. We want to be helpful. We want to do big things, important things. And there's nothing more important than enabling people.
Is it harder than you thought, though? Is it harder than you thought to stick to the things you want to do because of what keeps coming up, whether it's the Russia investigation or something else?
It is hard. And there's a level of viciousness that I was not expecting. I was not expecting the intensity of this experience, but this is supposed to be easy. Mm-hmm. My father and this administration intends to be transformative, and we want to do big, bold things, and we're looking to change the status quo. So I didn't expect it to be easy. I think some of the distractions and some of the ferocity was I was a little blindsided by on a personal level.
There's several important things to point out about what Ivanka Trump just said. First of all, let's start with the easy one. She referred to all these distractions that the administration is having, as if somehow the potentially criminal activity of the administration is just a distraction. All those investigations, don't worry about those distractions, right? The fact that her father quite probably colluded in some form with Russian intelligence to win the election, that's a distraction, folks.
But the most important thing Ivanka talked about was the viciousness. You know, she didn't expect it to be easy. Nobody expects that job to be easy. But that viciousness, man, that blindsided her. Kind of the way that her father's viciousness blindsided the American public when he claimed that President Barack Obama was not born in the United States and therefore should not have been allowed to be president. Her father pushed all sorts of conspiracy theories during the Obama years, but Obama didn't go on TV, his wife didn't go on TV and complain about the viciousness of those people. No, they acted like grown-ups about it and went about their job trying to fix the mess left them by George W. Bush. But that's not the Trump way. The Trump way is to go out there, deny, complain, and whine, and lie. And that is exactly what Ivanka did in this interview. Her father is quite possibly the most vicious person in Washington, D.C. right now. He was the most vicious person on the campaign trail. He sat there at a rally in front of thousands of people and mocked a disabled reporter. So don't tell me that you were blindsided by this viciousness and ferocity. Your father brought this on himself when he made those comments. Where the tape came out, where he liked to grab women by the genitals, and it's okay, they let you do it when you're rich and powerful. That was viciousness, Ivanka. You need to stop playing the victim here, because you are anything but. Your affluenza has allowed you to live a life free from criticism and free from the public eye. But when your father chose to run for president, and when you chose to be a part of this administration along with your husband, you put yourself in this position. And yeah, you know what? It gets vicious sometimes. That's what happens when you use overseas sweatshop labor to make your goods for American citizens to buy. And we find out about it and talk about it. Technically, it's not even viciousness. It's just reporting the truth. So you can complain all you want to those folks on that Fox and Friends couch. But the truth is, your father brought that level of viciousness into Washington, D.C. with him, and you are right there at the dead heart center of it, helping him be as vicious as he is, not just to his critics, not just to the media, but to everyone in this country. If you like this video, make sure that you like, comment, and share, and most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
You sorry. God, man. Again, man, all they do is attack, attack, attack. They're the ones that's so vicious. They're the ones that's spreading this propaganda, lies. See if we got any more videos to watch before I get to reading these articles. No, I think that's all the videos. This was the headline on Drudge a little bit earlier. I haven't checked it in the past couple of hours, but this comes from CNSnews.com. Trump assassination play still funded by Time Warner taxpayers. It's by Gabe Cohen, June 12th, 2017, 11:28 a.m. Time Warner, the parent company of CNN, is one of the companies still sponsoring the Public Theater, a New York Shakespeare group that offers free tickets to anyone who wants to see President Trump assassinated in the group's rendition of Julius Caesar. The New York City government's, quote, Department of Cultural Affairs, unquote, also sponsors the theater group. This is, quote, Shakespeare in the Park, unquote, play. A man with unkempt blonde hair, a blue suit, and red tie, is married to a woman wearing designer outfits and speaking with a Slavic-like accent. At the end of the play, the Trump Caesar character is brutally stabbed to death in a long assassination scene. The play's director, Oscar Iskowitz, calls the play a, quote, contemporary warning parable, unquote. Quote, Rome's leader, Julius Caesar, is a force unlike any the city has seen. Magnetic populist, irreverent, he seems bent on absolute power. A small band of patriots devoted to the country's democratic traditions must decide how to oppose him. Shakespeare's political masterpiece has never felt more contemporary, unquote. Went on to say, quote, Julius Caesar can be read as a warning parable to those who try to fight for democracy by undemocratic means. Yeah, to fight the tyrant does not mean imitating him, unquote. CNN host Fareed Zakaria, like his employer's parent company, Time Warner, supports the play. Zakaria even went so far as to declare it a, quote, masterpiece. Quote, if you're in New York, go to see Julius Caesar, free in Central Park, brilliantly interpreted for Trump era, a masterpiece. Quote, he tweeted at the end of May, unquote. The Trump assassination play is making headlines just a week after CNN fired Reza Aslan and Kathy Griffin for their over-the-top displays of hatred toward President Trump. On Sunday, Delta Airlines and Bank of America both pulled their support from the company. Quote, we do not condone this interpretation of Julius Caesar at this summer's Free Shakespeare in the Park, unquote, tweeted Delta. Quote, we have notified them that our decision to end our sponsorship as the national airline of the public theater, unquote. Bank of America followed suit, tweeting a statement saying, quote, the public theater chose to present Julius Caesar in a way that was intended to provoke and offend, unquote, adding that if it had been of the play's content beforehand, it would never have sponsored it. Meanwhile, the Time Warner Foundation, American Express, and others continue to sponsor the Central Park Theater. Though American Express has reportedly issued a statement distancing itself from the group, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. also took to Twitter to express their displeasure with the Shakespeare adaptation. Quote, I wonder how much of this art is funded by taxpayers, tweeted Donald Jr. Serious question. When does art become political speech, and does that change things? Unquote. Eric Trump said in a tweet, quote, thank you, Delta and Bank of America. This was the best thing to do, unquote. The theater group has been assassinating Trump since the play opened on May 23rd and will continue to kill the president until June 18th. Quote, Julius Caesar is about how fragile democracy is. The institutions that we have grown up with, that we have inherited from the struggle of many generations of our ancestors can be swept away in no time at all, quote, says the play's artistic director Oscar Utis on the company's website. As the publication of the piece, these organizations were still listed as sponsors. It's got a long list here. The Luce Theister T. Mertz Charitable Trust, Blavatnik Family Foundation, their website www.inc-cap.com/content/. The Harold and Mimi Steinberg New Play Development Fund, the Philip and Janice Levin Foundation, the Time Warner Foundation, American Express, New York Magazine, Theater Mania, Today Tix, NYC Cultural Department, New York Council on the Arts, and Artworks. While not listed on the public theaters, phone 212-539-8650, quote, corporate sponsors, unquote, webpage, the New York Times has publicly declared itself to be a sponsor and vowed to continue funding the theater group. The New York Times phone is 800-698-4637. It's got a full list too on this article. Here's an update. The Public Theater has pulled its sponsor list, but issued a definite statement defending depiction of the president's assassination. But yeah, everybody needs to make their dollars count and shut them down from the inside out. That's pathetic to have a play about killing our president. Like, if they did that about Obama, can you imagine what would happen? By the way, Golden State, they just won the 2016-2017 NBA championship tonight. Congratulations to them. Here's an article I ran across the other night. I've been saving it for my next show. It comes from American Politics. Pope Francis delivers a stern warning to every Republican who supports Trump. President Donald Trump is getting a stunning rejection from the world's top Christian leader. Pope Francis, leader of the global Catholic Church, has been telling his followers that they must reject Trump's position on immigrants and refugees. According to Pope Francis, Christians have a duty to embrace immigrants and refugees. That's exactly the opposite of what Trump and the modern-day Republicans are trying to do. This is an important reminder for all Americans who call themselves Christians. Quote, it's hypocrisy to call yourself a Christian and chase away a refugee or someone seeking help, someone who is hungry or thirsty, toss out someone who is in need of my help, end quote, Pope Francis reportedly said. Bipartisan reports that Pope Francis has possibly been the most politically involved pope ever, and his latest statements about President Trump's new ban on Muslims is likely to leave the Donald in quite a tizzy. It's only a matter of days since the ban on Muslims was enforced, and already its effects are being felt around the world, from angry atheists who believe that the religious people are evil to the devout Christians who actually try to practice what they preach. Everyone is up in arms about the blatant discrimination of this very large group of people. Finally, the Pope is reaching out to President Trump to say, whatever logical person is thinking, you can't be a true Christian while rejecting refugees, Donnie. Pope Francis condemned President Trump while addressing a crowd of German Catholics and Lutherans. Quote, the contradiction of those who want to defend Christianity in the West and the other hand are against refugees and other religions, unquote. He went on to say, this, quote, this is something I've read in books, but I see in newspapers and on television every day. The sickness, or you can say the sin, that Jesus condemns most is hypocrisy, which is precisely what is happening when someone claims to be a Christian but does not live according to the teachings of Christ. You cannot be a Christian without living like a Christian. You cannot be a Christian without practicing the Beatitudes. You cannot be a Christian without doing what Jesus teaches in Matthew 25. For decades now, Republicans have claimed to be the party of Christian values. However, it's increasingly obvious the Republican idea of Christian values is terribly wrong. With the Trump policy agenda, Republicans are directly contradicting the message of the Bible and Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's easy for him to point fingers, living behind his 20, 30-foot walls at the Vatican. Why the hell don't the Vatican let the Muslims in? That's what I'd like to know. I mean, they've got more wealth in their art than what exists in the whole entire world. And they're talking about us for not letting in a bunch of Muslims. Why don't they let them in? See, it's easy for people to criticize, but they want to be part of the problem and not part of the solution, if you ask me. Myself, yeah, I do see the Christian side to the refugee problem, but it's like this. I didn't go over there and start no war. I've watched enough of our jobs go to overseas, and it's just pathetic, man. We get a leg up, but then they try to pull us 10 foot down every chance that they get. This article's from The Hill. Sessions to testify public to Senate Intel Committee. Attorney General Jeff Sessions will appear before the Senate Intelligence Committee for an opening hearing
There are always new
on
challenges
Tuesday.
and opportunities.
The committee has announced Sessions requested that the hearing be public. A Justice Department spokesman said this in a statement. Quote, the Attorney General has requested that this hearing be public. He believes it is important for the American people to hear the truth directly from him and looks forward to answering the committee's questions tomorrow, end quote, the statement said. Sessions' testimony comes just days after fired FBI Director James Comey told lawmakers that he knew details that made Sessions' involvement in the Bureau's Russia probe, quote, problematic, unquote. The comments, including a reported third meeting between Sessions and top Russian officials, have put the spotlight squarely on Sessions, Trump's first supporter in the Senate. Sessions was originally scheduled to testify before a pair of Senate and House appropriations subcommittee this week, but is now sending a deputy in his place so he can address Comey's Thursday testimony related to his firing. Democrats will be keen to press Sessions on his role in Comey's dismissal, which many in the party are criticizing as the part of an attempt by the president to impede the investigation into his campaign's ties to Russia. The president accepted a recommendation from Sessions and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein to fire Comey, the White House said in its initial exclamation. The president has since said he was thinking of Russian investigation when he made the decision and that he was planning to fire Comey regardless of the DOJ recommendation. Rosenstein, not Sessions, penned the formal rationale for the firing, but the mere connection to his name to the dismissal suggests a violation of his recusal, Democrats say. Quote, the Senate and the American people deserve to know exactly what involvement with Russia investigation he had before the recusal, what safeguards are in place to prevent his meddling, and why he felt it was appropriate to recommend the firing of Director Comey when he was leading that investigation, unquote, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, said in a statement. Quote, recommending Director Comey's firing would seem to be a violation of his recusal, and Attorney General Sessions needs to answer for that, unquote. The Attorney General has recused himself from the federal investigation into Russia interference in the U.S. election, now in the hands of the special counsel Bob Mueller, a move Comey said he had anticipated as early as February. Sessions' recusal in March came after reports that he didn't inform lawmakers of a meeting with the Russian ambassador when questioned about some such contacts under oath. Quote, we were aware of the facts I can't discuss in an open setting that would make his continued involvement in a Russia investigation problematic, unquote, Comey said Thursday. Comey reportedly told lawmakers behind closed doors that one of those facts included another reported meeting between Sessions and Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. Sessions has, at this point, disclosed two contacts with Kislyak before the presidential election, neither of which revealed during his Senate confirmation hearing in January. The Justice Department has also said that Sessions held the meeting in the capacity as a senator. The Justice Department has contradicted other elements of Comey's drastic testimony. In his written statements detailing his interactions with President Trump, Comey said that he had, quote, implored, unquote, the Attorney General to prevent the future one-on-one contact between himself and the President. Quote, I told the AG that what had happened, him being asked to leave while the FBI director who reported to the Attorney General remained behind, was inappropriate and should never happen, unquote, Comey said in his written statement. Sessions Comey claimed in his written statement and in public testimony did not reply. But the Justice Department in this statement described the encounter differently, arguing that, quote, the Attorney General was not silent. He responded to his comment by saying that the FBI and Department of Justice needed to be careful about following appropriate policies regarding contacts with the White House, unquote. Sessions' appearance before the Intelligence Committee is almost certain to stroke frustrations in the Judiciary Committee, which has jurisdiction over the Justice Department and has been campaigning for Comey to appear before their panel. So maybe we'll get somewhere after Sessions testifies. But I'll tell you what Sessions is going to say before he even testifies tomorrow. He's going to tell him that he had no involvement with anybody from Russia, except for, who he had to talk to, which he had plainly documented on several documents. This is all just an excuse, make an excuse so they won't have to do no work and just keep on getting paid for nothing. I'm telling you, man, they have been so many disruptions since Donald Trump's presidency. No, I take it back. Just one big Democratic disruption. That's all it's been. It's a damn amazing he's got anything done. It really is. So I'm not for sure what time that will be on tomorrow. I'm sure it'll be on TV though tomorrow. You may ought to check your local listings. This article is from the Fox News Insider. First new coal mine of Trump era opens in Pennsylvania. I was looking for a writer, but I do not see one. As seen on America's News Headquarters. President Trump lauded the opening of the nation's first new coal mine in recent memory. Corsa Coal Company will operate the mine in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh. Corsa CEO George Dethlefsen said that mine will be a boon to the struggling local economy. He praised Trump's easing of regulations and encouragement for fossil fuel exploration. Democrats raise eyebrows while foul-mounted rhetoric. Oh, that's the other articles. I'm sorry. I'm just stuck reading there. Excuse me. Jeff Lefson told Leland Vitterert that for the 70 positions available in that mine, 400 people applied. Quote, "It's a hard day's work every day, but it's worth it," unquote, one miner said. Vitterert said the news contrasts with Hillary Clinton's message that she would, quote, "put a lot of coal miners out of work," unquote. Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf, Democrat who endorsed Clinton, joined the mine company in watching a video message from Trump commemorating the occasion. R.J. Harris, a longtime host on Harrisburg 580-WHP, said the mine opening is a, quote, "shot in the arm," unquote, for the Keystone economy. Pennsylvania was once home to the world's largest coal breaker, the St. Nicholas Breaker in Mahoney City. In its heyday, the breaker could process 12,000 tons of anthracite coal each day, according to the Allentown Morning Call. Demolition began on the Schuylkill County behemoth in 2015, a sign of the times in the coal region. Harris said he is optimistic that Corsa's mine opening is evidence that Trump can help turn the region's economy around. Excuse me. The mine will reportedly be producing metallurgical and bituminous coal, which is used in steel making, while anthracite is the type often used in energy production. That's the end of that article, folks. But yeah, do you see what the mainstream media is doing constantly? What the Democrats are doing constantly? And I'll just tell you, John McCain, he ain't no damn Trump supporter. Republican, he ain't no Trump supporter. Let's get into one more article before I end this show. Actually, I don't think my battery power's going to make it. I'm going to go ahead and end this show, I guess. It's been a pretty good show, I guess. Sorry about not being on earlier today. I've just been busy, and then it takes a lot to put into a show, to do one show. It really does. I mean, listen to my voice, you can pretty much hear how tired I am. But, I'll try to be back tomorrow earlier if possible. I want to get into some more of this propaganda stuff just as soon as possible. But I want to see what the Senate Intelligence Committee and them having Jeff Sessions testify. I want to see the outcome of that. And so we may do a live stream of it on the show. I don't know, but I will try. I'll definitely try to do something on it. Thanks for listening. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. I'll see you next time. Peace out.